For sure. Well, first of all, that talk we had it like over a year ago, and back then, the new mirrorless cameras from Canon hadn't been out, and the new Sony A7S III hadn't come out. So now my answer would most likely be the R5 from Canon. That's a beast, for all around. But yeah, right now I have a 77D. It's a crop factor camera at a 1.6, and I was talking to Stevie about switching to an M50 mirrorless crop still because of the speed booster. Talking about getting more bokeh and keeping it light. I do a lot of field work. I usually do landscape photography, and most of my classes are way out in the mountain or somewhere in the woods. And having all that gear in my bag, it really makes me think twice about what do I switch to make it lighter.
Right. And if the lighter gear you have, the more shrooms you could take with you up into the mountain.
Exactly.
Okay. Or
the more
take
creative
back.
I get.
Take back, depending on your harvesting skills.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So I told Steve about this guy Thomas Heaton. I'm a big fan of him. He's a landscape photographer and videographer. He used to do everything with his 5D Mark IV, which is a great full sensor DSLR. And he switched to an M50 and to a Fuji X-T3. And the reason was that he could do a lot of... he pretty much compared quality, video-wise, and photography, which everything that he prints and uploads. He saw no significant difference. So that's why he switched. And that made me think a lot about whether do I keep saving for an EOS R, or do I just buy like two M50s? I could start doing 2-point shot recordings and have a speed booster and then get a lot more from the lenses that I already own.
Those are...
So
sorry to interrupt. Those are the M50. Those are mirrorless, right?
Those are mirrorless, yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
Is the debate here between keeping a DSLR camera and enjoying the benefits of that analog system that's been working good for many years, but that it is a heavy camera, or going to a mirrorless that is improved in the sense of it's newer software, newer technology, is a lot lighter because you don't need the mechanical stuff that's on a DSLR, and it's lighter and easier to manage. But obviously, the debate is there like a loss in quality when you move from the mechanical on a DSLR to a mirrorless, and is that decay in quality, if there is one, worth it when you're saving money on buying the camera, weight, ease of use? Is that sort of where we're falling on this topic, like on this debate?
Actually, I researched plenty to say that I don't think there's a compromise when you go from DSLR to a mirrorless. It all depends, once again, like you said.
God,
there's always an answer around it, but pretty much most mirrorless nowadays.
Politics?
Yeah, actually, as an architect, I've always thought about going into Ministry of Urban Development, which is something that I love. Okay. But that's on another subject.
You see, he always has an answer to it as well. No, but yeah, sorry. So you say there's no compromise between going.
There's no compromise. Right. Actually, I think there's way more to gain because mirrorless is more software. Software you upload faster. Everything that has to do with the screen, with the interface, the user interface, than having it digitalized through a mechanical shutter, going through the processor and then going to your camera. Of course, if you're going to go to something like the 1DX Mark III, you most likely won't notice it because that's a beast. But if you compare that to the R5 or the A7S III, then seriously, all you're going to have is way more options. And apart from that, like you update your phone, you can update your camera. Mm-hmm. Like the EOS R, when it came out, it was kind of shitty. The EOS RP, which is like their budget friendly mirrorless full frame camera from Canon, it's like under $900, and people used to hate it. But then they just upgraded firmware. Now you have I believe it's eye detection and 24 FPS, which is the things that people wanted to get. And just like that, like with the R5 and the R6, they were overheating while recording in 8K. They just did a firmware update and that's fixed. You can't do that with a DSLR.
Yeah.
You have to seriously go into the processor and the mechanics of it and then try and fix all of that. So you kind of go to that balance between having a cell phone, something's getting fucked up. Engineers are working on it on the back end. They just upload the update to their server. You download it, you install it, and that's it. You could just keep moving forward. So I seriously think that DSLRs are gonna die. Like,
God damn it!
This year,
I just
or
got
next
this
year.
shit.
No doubt about it.
No, I agree.
Yeah, but you got a great camera. But like I've told you,
As
I've
long
never
as you
had
wanna
a camera.
Do nothing else. Don't even move the camera. Just leave it there. It'll stay working.
I actually know of this anchor device that you can attach it to the wall, and I think it's gonna be a great improvement to your webcam setup.
If anything else, a nice decoration.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, but I know
yeah,
I have an 80D, and I think that even though this is like you could say old technology, this is a beast of a camera. But I do see the type of improvements that you're talking about. So you would say that a camera, the mirrorless, if it has the same sort of quality sensor or at least comparable, you don't see any advantage to the DSLR in quality or
prices.
no, not even because the mirrorless also seem to be cheaper.
Yeah, the M50 is cheaper than my camera. That's why the money that I was thinking to save towards the RP, I'll switch it for the two M50s. That way I could shoot from two different angles and do a lot of other things. Plus, it has 4K. Sure, it's cropped 4K to 1.7, but still, when I upload it to Premiere Pro, it reads it at 3020 or something like that to 2060. Right now, everything I upload, it's 1920 to 1080. So
now, when you grab that amount of 4K resolution, even if it's not full 4K resolution, when you grab that and you export to 1980, do you still get an advantage of having had a lot more pixels and concentrate them in 1820?
Big time. Not only the
1920,
1080,
right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not only the pixel compression that you get, like Peter McKinnon, he records in 8K and he compresses down to 1080.
He's such a flex, though, man. Why the hell are you recording a vlog in 8K, dude?
Because you can.
I know. Him and his
that's the
nice
thing. Him
polished
and
concrete
did you see
warehouse.
that video with him
What a bastard.
and Marquez Brown where he arguments why? Because Peter McKinnon was with his 1DX Mark II, and he's like, "Why do you overkill with 8K?" And then a couple of months after, he's got
doing it.
the same camera.
Yeah. I know. Well,
Yeah.
when you've got money to blow out your ass like that, I don't understand. I mean, what else do you do? You have to be.
It's not only that; it's the dynamic range. Is that if you got a frame and you wanna zoom in 4 times and then end up with the same quality as 1080, you could do all of that. While for us doing at 1080, and even if we're doing slow zoom, and even if we're just doing a 2% zoom, we start losing quality. Going up to 4K, that's the main advantage.
Yeah.
Then again, Tony Northrup, he did a pretty interesting video about why 4K is kind of more of a trend than actually practicality, because most people consume videos. YouTube is mostly consumed on the phone, and most of the resolution is usually at 1080, even if you got a kick-ass 2K phone display,
right?
So for me, the going up to the 4K with a crop is kind of an advantage, mostly for when I'm doing wildlife, because that 1.7 crop zooming in with 4K, plus having my 1.6 crop on Canon on my 300 mil, that's gonna give me like a 450 mil zoom to wildlife stabilized, and apart from that, I could zoom in from 4K to 1080.
Right.
So that for me is just stacking on stacking on stacking to something that it's really hard for me to get close to, like birds or
Right.
whatever type of wildlife I'm trying to get to.
Well, yeah,
That's
yeah.
something that I really like.
Now,
At
but
300
do
mil
you-
though, that's pretty impressive too. Still, you know. But yeah, you shooting wildlife. I'm assuming you probably have to have incredible.
Yeah, usually,
distance.
ideally, you would get a 600 mil at 4, and I don't have the money for that,
Mhm.
so I just work around it.
Yeah, that's some Discovery Channel shit right there.